Hi, Miss Jones. My name is Rachel, and I'm your speech language pathologist. I understand you've been experiencing hoarseness, especially toward the end of your day as a saleswoman. I really appreciate you coming in today so that we can discuss your concerns and learn how to improve your vocal health. As you know, we did conduct a fiber optic endoscopy at your last appointment, and this allowed us to visualize your vocal folds in real time while you spoke. So I have here the results. As pointed by the arrows, you have these little nodules on your vocal folds. They're just small callus-like growths on the folds. They typically do develop due to vocal overuse and strain. So that's super common in a profession like yours where you have to talk a lot. And it totally causes the hoarseness that you've been describing. So to help you visualize what's happening, I have here a little 3D model of the larynx. The larynx is situated in the anterior portion of your neck. If you place your fingers on your neck very gently and swallow, you can feel it move. So here's what it looks like in a model version, of course. Inside of the larynx, we have vocal folds, your two vocal folds that can be represented by the white string here. You can see it's attached to these two little purple parts. They're called arytenoid cartilages. They're not actually purple, just in the model here. And they're in charge of the tension and positioning of the vocal folds. So they are able to move, and as you can see, they can tighten the vocal folds and loosen the vocal folds, and this has or creates changes in the pitch and resonance of your voice. So when it's pulled more tightly, you have a higher pitch, and then when it's a little more loose, you can have a lower pitch. So it's kind of cool. Actually, you can feel in your throat if you make a higher pitch or a lower pitch. You can kind of feel some movement in the larynx, which is really cool. So this is the thyroid cartilage. It sits anteriorly to the arytenoid cartilages, and it protects the larynx. It also provides the majority of the structure of the larynx. And then inferior to the thyroid cartilage, we have the cricoid cartilage. So we can move this way. You can see it's a ring structure, and it provides a stable base for the larynx, and also it supports the arytenoid cartilages. If you imagine this paper towel roll as your trachea, which is your windpipe, it attaches here. And so it also keeps the airway open for then the air to travel down to the trachea and into your lungs so you can breathe. So this is obviously very important. The epiglottis here, it folds over when you swallow to prevent from food and liquid from entering the larynx and the trachea. So this is really important to get it down your esophagus. So I want to just tell you about how voice is produced because I think you'll find it interesting. There's a theory called the myoelastic theory, and what it describes is how we a cycle of speech. So your vocal folds start in an adducted or closed position. So if you imagine that these are the two vocal folds, they're closed. Then subglottal pressure, so sub meaning below and glottal meaning glottis, which is the space between the vocal folds. It builds up pressure as our air from our lungs is being pushed upward. So think of it, subglottal pressure, as the air pressure that's building up below the vocal folds. We have to have a certain level of pressure as the threshold to force the vocal folds open, okay? So once the pressure is strong enough, it does force the vocal folds apart, allowing air to pass through and creating a vibration. This vibration, or the movement of the vocal folds, is your voice. So as the air passes through, the vocal folds are sucked back together due to natural elasticity and something called the Bernoulli effect. So the Bernoulli effect occurs when the air passing through the narrow space of the vocal folds moves quickly, which lowers the pressure in that area. And the drop in pressure pulls the vocal folds back together. You can think of it as like when you see a fast-moving car and it causes the leaves nearby to get pulled toward it. That's the Bernoulli effect. So once all the air has passed through, the vocal folds come back together, okay, in the adducted position, and the cycle repeats itself. The pressure starts to build up again from the air from the lungs. So we also have some muscles that help this process. So there's a muscle called the posterior cricoarytenoid muscle, and this is the only muscle that abducts or opens the vocal folds, which is really important because it allows air to pass through the glottis during breathing. There's also the lateral cricoarytenoid and the interarytenoid muscles, and these assist in adduction or bringing the vocal folds together. Your nodules prevent this full closure of the vocal folds. So instead of a clear sound, the extra air escapes, which creates a breathy or hoarse voice that you've been describing. So over time, forcing your voice through this resistance can cause even more strain and fatigue. So the good news is that there's great hygiene habits that you can implement to help mitigate this. Drinking plenty of water to keep your tissues lubricated is so important. So avoiding caffeine and alcohol is crucial because this dehydrates those tissues. Taking breaks from talking is really important to allow your vocal folds to rest. And I think what you could really do that could help a lot is if you used a microphone during your sales pitches, if possible and if appropriate, because this would reduce the amount of amplitude and force and that's coming out, just really easing your voice. So with time and care, this does heal. And if you have any questions, please let me know.